and welcome to my channel. So today I am bringing you a new series and this is going to be called the A to Z of scrapbooking layouts. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you through a scrapbooking process, and the first one is for the letter A. So what I decided to use for this one was acetate. So I've pulled out a few different acetate bits. This is what initially started it. So these are some letter die cuts from Freckle Fawn. And I've had these for quite a while and not used any of them. So that was my starting point. I've got that. I've also got the likes of a Project Life Transparency. And this had the My Happy Place in the bottom corner, and I've cut that out, so I'm thinking of using that. I've also then got some stickers. Now I class these as acetate because they don't feel vellum-y. So therefore I'm classing these as acetate, and then I have got a couple of acetate sheets as well. I'm not sure which one I'm going to use, but we'll see how the layout goes. I've also pulled in some other bits to use to create this layout. So this is the picture I'm going to be scrapping, and this is of my daughter dipping her McDonald's chips into her chocolate milkshake, and it's a picture that I did put on Instagram, so it has got a filter on it, but I'm going to be using that one. I'm also then going to use other products that I've got about. So I've pulled out some thickers that sort of match, but my main idea is to use this Pretty Little Studio Ain't Life Grand collection. So I've picked this up a while ago and you will be able to see it in a haul video, but I've got the 6x6 paper pad, of which that's what the photo's backed in, because I was having a little bit of a mess, so I could show you what collection I was going to use, but making sure that it worked. So I've got the Ain't Life Grand. I've also got a couple of the sticker sheets. I've got those. I've got the label stickers. I've got the word stickers. I've got the 3x4 cards. I'm not sure if I'm going to use them or not. And then I have a few of the die cut packs to show you on the back. So I've got the tags pack. I've got the flowers and the camera pack as well. They're both in the same pouch. And then I've got the clouds, the hearts and the arrows. So I'm not sure which ones yet I'm going to use. I've pulled those all out to sort of start, and we'll get you on fast forward and we'll see how I can make acetate work on a layout. So I'll speak to you all in the voiceover. So I did a little bit of pre-preparation before actually fully getting into scrapping this layout. That's mainly because I seem to mess about a lot with the title. It took me a while to find out exactly how I wanted to use those acetate letters, and I ended up finding a quote on Pinterest. So I found be a Fruit Loop in a world full of Cheerios. There was quite a few different quotes that I went through, trying to find one that worked, that I had enough letters for, because initially I was thinking of doing the whole title in those acetate letters, but in turn it ended up working with just the actual Fruit Loop part being the acetate. So yeah, I did a little bit of messing with those few little elements that I've pulled out there, a couple of the little shutters and the bigger camera, but apart from that I hadn't really planned anything else. So now I'm sort of scrapping freehand, should we say. And with having that camera in the bottom left hand corner, that did have quite a bit of black around it. So I did feel as though I had to pull in a few other black elements across the page to make that work. That's why you'll find me going through the little die cut packs. I'm mainly going for colours. So that little heart at the top is to bring in the lime green. The shutter that I put behind the camera, that's also to bring in the lime green. And now I'm going to start actually going through how to get these things adhered to the page. So with the title, with them all being acetate letters, what I decided to do was line them all up on my ruler And this is a good way, well, if you don't knock the ruler as I've just done, but this is a good way to get things of acetate form stuck down. So I lined everything up so I was happy with it, and then used a piece of washi tape just to fix it in place and make sure that it's straight. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring out my sewing machine, and I'm just going to sew straight through the acetate letters. So it's the stitching that's keeping them down, brings a bit of texture onto the page and stops me having to find some glue that you can't see through, which I don't think I have any. I think I used to at one point, but I don't anymore. So I'm just going to go through 3 times, back and forth, and make sure that they're fully stuck down. And they do lift up a little bit in places, but it adds to the dimension of the page. So I find that that works really, really well. So if you've got a sewing machine, or even if you've got the patience to hand stitch some things, this is a great way to get acetate stuck down onto a page. There is a couple of other ways, or maybe one other way, 2 other ways that I do show you in with this layout. So you can see, you know, you don't need to have specialist glue to make sure that these work and get stuck down. There are other ways to do it. So I've got that title now where it's supposed to be, and I'm just going to rub out. I did pop a little couple of markings where I wanted the photo to go in with the title, but I used the smaller letters to create the rest of the title, and the BA I wanted to make sure that were nestled in down by the F. So that was my thought, to try and make the title look right and go together. I've also, to stick down the other transparency, I am using glue, but then I'm going to go over the top of it with some paper. So as I've only got the 6x6 paper pad of this, I went through and found a pattern that I could make look like it was a 12x12 strip, a 12-inch strip, and that turned out to be this little stripe paper. I'm losing my words. So I'm now going to start getting the rest of the title down. So I knew I wanted the inner world to nestle in by the letter P, so that connected up that part of the title. And I did sort of have things down anyway, in a rough sort of way that I wanted them, but nothing's ever really final until you stick it down, is it? So I knew I wanted that full of to nestle in underneath, but I wasn't quite sure where, so I will mess about with that in a moment. But to bring in another sort of embellishment cluster, only a little one, not so much one of the bigger elements, but just to bring some colours down to the Cheerios word. Due to the nature of the quote, I couldn't really use the acetate letters to spell out Cheerios, just because the quote wouldn't have quite worked that way. But I did want to bring a little bit more colour down there, just because there's so much colour on the whole of this page, and I really, really like the way it's all turned out. But I'm going to pop the Cheerios down, and then with the full of, I did try it, you know, nestled in by the I and by the H, but I did decide that it was better nestled in between the two. So I've popped that in the middle, and I feel that connects up all the title with the main words being big, and that's just the way that I like all of that. So we'll get all those bits stuck down, and then I'm going to bring in the other elements that I had again, so those 2 shutters and that little transparency. And to stick down this transparency, quite simply, I'm just going to staple it into place with my tiny attacher. So if you've got the option of stapling, it's a perfect way to stick down acetate. It works really, really well. I'm going to bring back in my other elements before I start finding all the other little bits that I want as finishing touches. I did try taking the camera off. I wasn't sure if I needed that extra embellishment cluster, but I did find it really works. So what I'm doing now is just trying to get all those colours into all the different areas. So I've pulled in the orange word snap, and a little pink flower, and then I'm going to bring in some of that darker teal near Cheerios, and then up near the other little cluster I'm bringing in some pink and some blue. While it's in the stripes, I needed a few different solids in with that, so I'm going to bring those in. I did try a few of these little word strips, and while that one would have looked really good at the bottom with the hot pink, I do need to still put my journaling on yet. So I decided to not mess about with those word stickers until I got my journaling on. So I had a pause and printed out my journaling on my printer, and also printed out a little bit for the date, which I ended up popping directly onto the photo. But the journaling just reads that Catherine has a weird like for McDonald's chips dipped in their chocolate milkshake. I'm not sure when this started, but in time I hope it will stop. Hashtag don't mix chips and milkshake is my journaling. And while I was reading that out to you, I brought in another one of those shutter stickers just to bring in some elements of black up in the top of the photo. And I also decided to add 2 extra strips of the stripy paper, just to bring all those colours to the right hand side as well, though I did cut that one shorter just because it didn't need to be as long. So now I'm just going to go through and stick them all down. I'm going to raise up some elements. So I've raised up the little turquoise flower near Cheerios. I'm going to raise up the camera in this bottom cluster, and then I'm going to actually raise up the picture itself in the main cluster of embellishments, etc. Get all my bits stuck down and in place before I do that, and I'm going to use foam for the back of my picture just because foam dots are so expensive. So the little children's craft foam works wonderful for pictures, and it means the whole element of it is covered as well. So for my top cluster, I'm just going to chop the bits off the top of the page and raise up the little green heart. I'm also going to bring in the word smile just to bring in a hint of that hot pink. So there's elements of it all the way down the side of the page and in the title, but I felt like the top just needed a little bit more. I'm going to pop a black love it to bring that over, and then I'm going to pop say cheese next to the photo, and again I'm going to bring that one up as well. And then to echo the fact that I have the stitching through the title, I did decide to do some straight stitching down the stripe paper. I also felt that that helped it to keep in place, but I must say that the paper quality is fantastic in this paper range. It's so thick. I mean, even looking at the layout now, I can't see where the join is. I can't see where the join is in the colours. They're just vivid all the way through. So if you do have any chance to get hold of any of these collections, do it. You won't be disappointed. It did cost a bit to get shipped from the States, but I just love this collection so much I couldn't leave it. So we're nearly at the end of the layout now anyway, and the end of the letter A. So I'm going to stick down my stitching, just pulling that through to the back and popping a bit of washi on. But I'm really impressed with how much acetate I did get onto this page. I did like the challenge. I hope you'll join me. Please let me know how you managed to get acetate working. But the last element I'm going to bring in is just a few of these little My Mind's Eye. I'm just going to pop some gold stars just to echo the fact that I decided to use the gold acetate rather than the teal dotty one. Just pop a few of those little sprinklings in the little clusters. And that's it done. So thank you so much for joining me. I hope you've enjoyed our letter A, and I'll speak to you all again soon.